thank you to everyone for completing the poll. We're going to go ahead and get started. So I'd like to officially welcome everyone to our webinar. This is our second annual Student Accounts webinar series here at Student Financial Solutions, otherwise known as SFS. Student Financial Solutions is the primary billing office here at UCSD and responsible for the management of all student accounts on campus. My name is Andrew Weidler, and I'm an analyst here at SFS. So a little background information about our office. We are comprised of 5 different units. Those units include Student Account Services, University Billing Services, Central Cashier's Office, Loan Administration, and Campus Cards. So a few ground rules and housekeeping items before we get started. First, a copy of this presentation and the script that we use will be available on our website in the next couple of days. So we will send out the link for that at the end of the webinar. We also ask that you remain muted throughout the duration of the webinar, and if you have a busy background, that you keep your cameras off. If you do have questions throughout the webinar, we strongly encourage you to go ahead and ask us. We do have the Q&A feature on, and we'll be answering questions live throughout the webinar, as well as at the end of the webinar. We will also have a couple team members answering questions via typed responses throughout the webinar as well. The chat feature is off. So again, if you have questions, please use the Q&A feature. Lastly, I would like to note that this webinar is hosted by Student Financial Solutions and not the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office, which is a separate office. While we will briefly touch on some financial aid matters throughout the webinar, I want to emphasize that general financial aid, or more specific financial aid questions such as awarding, aid revisions, and FAFSA information must be answered directly by the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office. So at this time, I would like to introduce one of our awesome student employees, Catalina Aguilar. I'd like to ask her to speak to you a little bit about her experience as both a student here at UCSD, as well as her experience at our office, managing student accounts and having a more back-end understanding of how student accounts works. So she can give you a little bit of tips and tricks and general advice for transitioning to life here at UC San Diego.
Hi everyone, I'm Catalina Aguilar. I am a 4th year transfer student here at UCSD, majoring in ecology, behavior, and evolution. I started around last July here at Student Financial Solutions, so it's been about a year now. And when I first transferred, it was extremely overwhelming. There's a lot of different academic and financial aspects that come with being at UCSD. And it was really hard, like navigating through Triton and all the different offices' websites and all the resources that are available. And it was kind of hard to figure out where to start in finding those things. So it wasn't really until I started like researching and like digging around the different websites that I kind of like got some information from like the financial aid office and the registrar's office. And I found like a lot of the information they had on those websites was really useful, and it kind of helped to ease any of the worries I had. And then it wasn't until I started working at Student Financial Solutions that I kind of got a deeper understanding of the different components that make up being a student here at UCSD. And I just gained a lot of insight in the past year just having worked here. So I hope that all of the tips and tricks that we go over in this webinar kind of help you as much as they helped me. And don't be afraid to ask questions in the chat. I had a ton of questions when I first transferred here, and I promise you none of them are stupid. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and put them in the chat, and I hope this helps you guys out a lot. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, Catalina, for that great insight and feedback. I'd now like to introduce one of my colleagues, Lena Abanasser, who will be leading our presentation this evening.
Hi everyone, like Andrew said, my name is Lena Abanasser. I'm happy to be a co-host for today's webinar. So we'll go ahead and get started. Before we get too in-depth in our presentation, I'm going to go over some key terms with topics such as your student account. Most importantly, you'll hear this come up a lot. So this is all items related to your bill at UC San Diego. It includes your transaction history, any payments you've made, your monthly billing statements, and so on. You can access this at any time via Triton link. Next, your e-bill. This is short for electronic bill, a statement that includes all your transactions on your account within the past month. Email notices are sent to you also each month the bill is published. Balance. This is the total amount owed at any given time. All right, so we'll go ahead and next portion, the credit balance. So this represents money owed to you and can be applied to open charges on your account. This is usually shown as a negative number and it does not represent an amount owed to the university. TRIP. This stands for the Triton Registration Installment Plan. This is the plan that allows students to divide their quarterly tuition and registration fees into 3 monthly installments to be paid during the quarter. We have different enrollment options, which we'll discuss more later on in this presentation. Hold. A hold is a restriction placed on your student account preventing specific actions such as enrolling in classes, paying online, and receiving financial aid. All right, so we'll go ahead and jump in. The first topic we'll be going over during the presentation is your student account and everything available for you to access. Again, your student account is a summary of all things related to UC San Diego billing. You can access your student account by logging into Triton Link, going to Financial Tools, clicking Billing and Payment, and going to the View and Pay Bill page. Or you can simply click on the Balance or Account Details hyperlink that's found on the Triton Link landing page. From that page, you'll be taken to Triton Pay, where you can do the following. You can find your electronic bill, view your account or credit balance, review holds, and verify billing due dates for your balance. It's important to note that while UC San Diego runs on a monthly billing cycle, tuition and registration fees are charged on a quarterly basis. This happens shortly after you enroll in your classes each term. There's several reasons why we run on a monthly billing cycle. First, there's an option to enroll in a monthly payment plan for tuition and registration fees, TRIP, which again, we'll talk more about later on. Second, if you'll be living on campus, there's also a monthly payment plan offered for housing fees. And third, students are able to charge their account with any purchases they make at places like the bookstore, library, and Sunshine Market. Payment for these items are due the following month during the next billing cycle. As I mentioned on the previous slide, there's a couple different options available for you to access your student account. One, you can click on the account balance or account details hyperlink. Otherwise, you can go to the Financial Tools tab, click on Billing and Payment, and then go to the View and Pay Bill page. Please note that if you have any holds, they will show up on the box right next to account balance on the Triton Link landing page. This is where you would find all of your current holds, whereas if you look in Triton Pay, you only see financial related holds that can be cleared by making a payment. Also, next to your holds, you'll see a box noting whether you have an active health insurance waiver or not. You must apply for the health insurance waiver and it must get approved for it to display on the screen. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on as well. While students are allowed to access their student account and contact our office at any time, parents and any other party will need to become authorized payers. To add an authorized payer, the student will need to go to their Triton Link and select Financial Tools. Then they'll select Billing and Payment and choose the Add an Authorized Payer option. They'll then enter the authorized payer's first and last name and their email address. The payer will receive account setup instructions shortly thereafter. If you don't receive an email within a few minutes, please check your spam or junk folders. Once you're added as an authorized payer, you have access to a specific authorized payer portal. Through that site, your parent can do the following: view and pay the student's bill, review student account activity, update payment profiles and contact information, enroll in the Triton Registration Installment Plan, or TRIP, the monthly plan for tuition, and you can load money onto your students' Triton Cash accounts. Additionally, you will receive monthly email notices if there's activity on your account, and you're able to contact our office to ask specific account questions. So now on your screen is the Authorized Payer portal. This is where payers can log in and view their student's bill. Please note that this portal is different from the student account portal. Authorized payers can only access this site to view account activity, while students can only access their student account on Triton Link. Up next, we'll be showing you an in-depth look at Triton Pay. This is where students can view and pay their bill, review their account history and billing statements, and access different resource links. The first area I want to focus your attention is the alert call-up box at the top. This will notify you of any outstanding balance, if there's a credit balance, or if you have any holds on your account. On the far right-hand side is the button you would click if you want to make a payment, labeled as Payment Options. Next, you have the account history link where you will be able to see an itemized breakdown of all your transactions. Lastly, you have an option to view up to a year's worth of billing statements. If you need billing statements from before a year ago, you can access those by contacting our office. Here we have an official billing statement. One is issued to you every month that you have activity on your account. The activity includes all transaction types, so don't be alarmed if you receive an e-bill notice, even though you may have recently submitted a payment. Both the student and authorized payers receive notices. The top portion has the statement date, your PID, the due date, and the amount that's due. The bottom includes a breakdown of all the charges and payments that have been assessed to your account since the release of the prior month's billing statement. It's important to note that the billing statement is static, so it's not updated after it's released. In other words, the amount due at the bottom will not include any payments, waivers, or financial aid that are posted to your account after it's published. If you want an accurate, up-to-date reflection of what's currently due on your account, it can be found in the alert call-out box back on the main My Account Summary page. On the account history page, you have several different viewing options available. You can see your statement transactions, which include all transactions on the billing statement, unpaid transactions, which will show all charges that have not yet been paid for, or the current month transactions that will show the charges that have been assessed to your account that month. If you're enrolled in the monthly installment plan for tuition and registration fees, TRIP, you'll be able to view the next 2 installments. This will be shown as future TRIP installments on the drop-down menu. We'll discuss this payment plan more later on, as I mentioned. Finally, you can view your full account history, which will include all transactions posted to your account since you first began at UC San Diego. You also have the option to download this information for your records if you'd like. If you're a financial aid recipient, aid might not appear in your billing statement right away. Before the quarter begins, there will be an item called pending awards on your account. This includes different financial aid items like loans, grants, departmental fee payments, and TA fee remissions. Typically, awards aren't officially dispersed to your account until right before or after the due date. Because of this, pending awards will automatically be calculated along with your balance to provide what is called the adjusted balance. If that amount is positive, you must pay the remaining balance by the due date. If the amount is negative, that signifies that your pending aid will pay the entire balance due, and the student will be eligible for a refund for the displayed amount once the quarter begins. While pending aid does display on your student account, we cannot advise on specific aid amounts or aid changes. We ask that you direct these questions to the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office.
All right, so I'm going to interrupt Lena for just a few moments to ask a couple questions that we have received over these first couple of slides. So the first question, do I have to reauthorize a parent every academic year?
All right, so whenever you authorize your parent, they'll have access pretty much as long as you're enrolled at UC San Diego, and also their access continues on even after you graduate. You can, however, if needed, end any authorized parents access by going on to Triton Link, the same place where you enrolled them, and there is a delete or reset option you can use if you'd like.
All right, great. Next question. Can you explain a little bit more about accessing Triton Pay and how to do that? Is it different for students versus parents?
So for students, they have to access their account directly through Triton Link. At the top, once they log in, there's a tab called Financial Tools. On that tab, there's an option for billing and payment. It'll take them to a separate menu and they'll select the View and Pay Bill option, and that'll take them to Triton Pay. For parents, they have a specific authorized payer portal. So they'll log in using a special link for them, and then they select the View and Pay Bill option, and then they can view the same account activity that their student can.
All right, great. So do we wait until financial aid disperses to pay our balance?
So as long as the line item adjusted balance appears on your account, that means you're good to go to make a payment. So if you were to make a payment at that time, it's the accurate amount. You won't be overpaying or underpaying for your fees. If that doesn't show yet, you can still make a payment and get reimbursed later on, but you are able to wait to make a payment until you see the adjusted balance with your pending aid listed.
All right, great. And one more question. Can we divide when or how our financial aid is paid out to us? So for example, if I were to receive a $3,000 grant for the entire quarter, can I choose to receive $1,000 each of the 3 months in the quarter?
So usually when you're awarded aid, they offer you a package that's set for the entire year. That amount is split up into the 3 quarters, typically fall, winter, spring. But when your aid disperses, each third disperses in full at the start of the quarter. So let's say for fall, all of it would disperse with the first bill that's due in September, and it's going to pay any open fees in order of priority, which is registration and tuition, housing fees, and then any other miscellaneous charges you might have.
All right, great. So we're going to go ahead and get back to the next part of the presentation.
All right, so now we'll go ahead and talk about your online payment methods that are available. So if you'd like to make a payment with e-check or credit card, you'll select the payment options button and then choose the first option that reads e-check or credit card. Then you'll be taken to the custom payments page. Please note there's an additional 50-cent service fee for e-check payments and an additional 2.75% service fee for credit card payments. The custom payments page has a variety of different options for you to choose from. You can choose to either pay your total account balance, pay a percent of your balance, pay a specific amount, or by clicking the Pay Selected Charge button, you can select the specific charge you want to pay for. For example, you can select this option if you only want to pay your tuition and registration fees and not your housing fees at that time. So if we go back to the account summary page, we have even more options available for you if you want to pay with a method outside of the US. If you'd like to make an international payment using our international payment partners, either Western Union or Flywire, you'll select the second option that reads by international wire. The payment confirmation page you're taken to will allow you to select one of two different options. Once you select either Flywire or Western Union, you'll be given additional information on each payment method. You can then click on the Continue button that will redirect you to either the Western Union or Flywire sites. Please note that when you select the international payment option, the next screen you're taken to is the payment confirmation page and not the custom payment page. This occurs because these international payments must be completed on either the Western Union or Flywire sites directly. As a result, you're unable to make a selected charge payment. However, you can still choose the specific amount you would like to pay. The one thing you can't do is designate what the money is directed towards. So if you select the Flywire option, again, you're directed to the Flywire website, and this is where you can enter the country or region you want to make a payment from, the amount you want to pay, as well as several other steps to complete the payment. Depending on the location and the method you select, it can take 10 to 12 business days for the payment to post to your student account. With that being said, if you do plan on making an international payment, please do so with the knowledge that it will not reflect on your account right away. The university does not accept the date of initiating the payment as the date of payment, as it would not have been applied to your balance by that time. If you were to select the Western Union option, you get directed to the Western Union website where you can enter the country or region you want to make the payment from, the payment method, and the rest of the information required to successfully make a payment. As with the Flywire option, this international payment method can also take up to 12 business days from when you submit the payment to post to your student account. Again, please keep in mind when deciding to initiate your payment, the processing times.
All right, so we're gonna take a couple more questions. So the first is, if I incur a charge, will I be notified about it, or do I need to check Triton Pay to see the charge?
So you don't get a notification every time a charge is placed, but you do get a billing notice in your email the following month a charge is assessed. You can pay for a charge as soon as it appears on your account, so you don't necessarily have to wait for the bill to come out.
All right, so next question, does a parent need to be enrolled as an authorized payer if payment is made through an international payment method?
Yes, so if anyone other than the student is submitting, initiating, remitting a payment, they have to be authorized in order to access the account information and the payment links needed to make this payment.
All right, does SFS recommend using one of Flywire or Western Union over the other?
So the payment processor that you choose is really up to you. We recommend checking both and deciding which is best for you depending on the country you're paying from and any additional exchange rate that there might be.
Okay, we have another question, which is, who would we contact if we experience issues with payments?
So for a student, you can go ahead and access the student services and support portal, which we can give you the site for later on. And for authorized payers, you can email us. Our email address is sfs@ucsd.edu. And again, we'll have our contact information at the end of this presentation for you as well.
All right, and one last question. Can we use the authorized payer account to pay tuition by credit card?
So yeah, same idea to an authorized payer making international payment. As long as they have their account set up and they can log into the authorized payer portal, they can make any type of online payment. So this does include e-check, credit card, Western Union, and Flywire payments.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and resume the presentation.
All right, so in recent years, there's been an increase in online scams that target college students. These scams promise a reduction in tuition and registration fees if a third-party service is used to make a payment. International students have been targeted more frequently, and scammers have especially targeted students using the popular app WeChat. You should also be aware of housing scams, particularly on websites like Craigslist. Certain examples of scams are when advertised pricing is much lower than other properties, the person trying to rent to you claims to be an agent for the property owner, the renter requires you to sign the lease before you see the property, or you're asked to wire deposit money before you've even seen the property. So, what can you do to protect yourself from these scams? First and foremost, never share your online credentials or financial information with anyone. Always use official UCSD payment methods. And don't respond to any third-party solicitations for tuition fee payments. Please note that UCSD does not offer any discounts for tuition or housing fees. If you're an international student who has been targeted, please notify the International Students and Programs Office and they'll be able to identify resources for you. So going back to payment methods, if you're unable to make a payment using any of our previous options, you can make a payment directly to the cashier's office. Please note that you can only use the payment options listed here. So you have an option to pay with cash, which can be submitted in person only. You can pay with personal checks, money orders, cashier's checks, or traveler's checks. Any form of check payment should always be made payable to UC Regions. Also with your payment, be sure to include your full name and PID. If you'll be mailing in a payment, the mailing address is as follows. UCSD Cashier's Office, 9500 Gilman Drive, mail code number 0009. It's very important that you include the mail code as this specifies the exact department location to send the check. Please note that due to COVID-19, the cashier's office location is closed until further notice. However, you can drop off your payment using the payment drop-off box located on the south side of the cashier's office. Their location is the first floor of the Student Services Center on campus next to the Price Center. Lastly, please note that UCSD does not accept overpayments. In other words, you can only pay for the current charges on your account. So college savings funds, or 529 payments, are prepaid educational savings plans meant to pay for future college costs. The cashier's office processes these payments, and in order to successfully make a payment using these funds, you need to provide your 529 administrator a billing statement showing your account balance. Also, please provide them the cashier's office mailing address, as they will need to mail in a check payment. UCSD does not accept wire transfers from 529 plans. If a 529 administrator is not listed as an authorized payer on your account, our office cannot release any specific information to them regarding your bill. As with other mail payments, they must include your name and your PID. Also, as with other physical payments, UCSD does not accept any overpayments, so the 529 administrator can't mail in a check for the full year. They must send a payment in each quarter. So, third-party sponsored students are those who receive tuition and fee payments from an outside organization. A different office may facilitate third-party billing depending on who is sponsoring the student. There's 3 different groups we have identified. First, for students sponsored by domestic organizations like other U.S. universities, our office, Student Financial Solutions, manages the billing and collection of fees for these students. For international students that are sponsored by non-U.S. agencies, those accounts are managed by the International Students and Programs Office. Lastly, for students receiving Veterans Affairs benefits, those accounts are managed by the VA coordinator at the registrar's office. So if you'll be receiving any scholarships from outside agencies, meaning the funds are not issued or awarded directly by the university, the scholarship agency must send the check directly to our office. Once you receive the scholarship, our office will process it and send it to you, and you'll receive an email notifying you that it has been received. From that point on, we send a report to financial aid and scholarships to let them know that you have received a payment, and they can post it to your student account. This entire process from the time we receive the check to when it's posted to your account typically takes about 5 to 7 business days during peak times, which is usually at the beginning of each quarter. If we're not receiving a high volume of checks, it can be done as soon as 2 to 3 business days.
All right, so we have another quick break with some questions for Alina. The first question is, if I mail a payment on the due date, is that considered on time?
So similar to international payments, a payment initiated on the due date is not considered on time if it's not received. So in other words, if it's postmarked on the due date, but it arrives after that date, it would be considered late by the university. It must be received by the due date to be considered on time.
All right, great. So next question, can my 529 administrator send funds electronically?
So the university doesn't accept any sort of wire transfers from 529 payments or from individuals, outside companies, anything like that. Typically, students send their administrators their billing statements as soon as they're released in order to have the funds withdrawn and a payment mailed to the cashier's office by the billing due date.
All right, and one final question for this section. How will my scholarship be applied to my account?
Typically, a scholarship less than $1,500 will be dispersed in full to your account the same quarter that it's received. If the scholarship is more than $1,500, it's going to get divided up evenly between the coming quarters. So let's say we receive one in fall and it's over $1,500. You'll get a third of it with your fall financial aid, a third with your winter financial aid, and a third with your spring financial aid.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get to the last part of the presentation.
All right, so Student Financial Solutions, as mentioned before, has several different units, one being the Campus Cards Office. This office is responsible for issuing student ID cards. If you'll be living on campus, the ID card is preloaded with dining dollars, which you can use at various college dining halls and markets. Additionally, you have the option to load Triton Cash onto the card. Authorized payers can also load Triton Cash money onto the card via the Authorized Payer portal. Triton Cash can be used at Price Center and a number of approved restaurants and markets off of campus as well. You can also use your student ID card to pay for items at the bookstore, Sunshine Market, and different campus printers. These charges will be assessed to your student account, and you can pay them off via Triton Link once they're available for viewing. It's important to note that the purchases you make with your ID card, whether it be a laptop, a book, a snack from the market, will be due the next billing cycle. For example, if you purchase something on September 15th, it will be due on the October billing due date. All right, next we have a lot of information for you about TRIP. So again, TRIP is the Triton Registration Installment Plan, which is the monthly payment plan our office offers for tuition and registration fees. TRIP will allow you to pay for your tuition and registration fees in 3 monthly installments instead of having to pay a lump sum at the beginning of each quarter. There's no interest associated with enrolling in TRIP. A one-time $40 fee will get charged every quarter you use it, and it will be due with the payment of your first monthly installment. Enrolling in TRIP means you do not have to make the full payment by the tuition quarterly due date. This is a great option for students not receiving enough aid to cover all tuition and registration fees, and it's also a great option for those who want more flexibility and split up their payments. There might be a few reasons you're unable to enroll in TRIP. For example, students who have enough financial aid to cover all tuition and registration fees are not eligible. Or you might have a hold on your account preventing you from enrolling in TRIP. Please note that being enrolled in a monthly housing installment plan does not impact your ability to enroll in TRIP with our office. It's important to note that TRIP is only available for fall, winter, and spring quarters. You cannot enroll in TRIP during summer session. You can enroll via Triton Link or the Authorized Payer portal. Usually, you can enroll in TRIP about a month before the first due date of the quarter. For each quarter's specific date, please refer to the TRIP page on our website. In summary, TRIP only covers tuition, non-residential tuition, registration fees, and student health insurance. If for fall 2020, you enroll in TRIP, you'll pay for 1/3 of your tuition and registration fees in September, the second third in October, and the last third on the November due date. TRIP does not cover housing or other miscellaneous fees. However, if you'd like to pay your on-campus housing fees monthly as well, you do have this option, which can be done during using the housing portal. All right, so UCSC issues refunds to students who have made a cash or check overpayment, those who receive excess financial aid, those who make a credit card overpayment, those who receive a housing credit, or who are awarded stipends. Certain refund types must be requested from our office via the Services and Support portal. These refunds are issued under the student's name, regardless of who made the payment. To find out if you have a refund available on your account, you can go to Triton Link and then Triton Pay. There is an alert banner at the top that will state there's a credit balance available for you. If there is a credit balance available, you can contact our office to initiate the refund. Please note that financial aid refunds are usually dispersed automatically within 2 to 3 business days of the credit showing on your account. Any available credit that's not used to pay for charges is refunded automatically after 90 days of the payment being made. Once the credit is issued, meaning it's no longer a negative balance in your account, it does appear on your account history page under the charge column, and there are several different types of refunds: financial aid, cash check, stipend, or housing. The transaction charge will show up as a charge because when a refund is initiated, the negative credit balance has to be offset by a positive charge. There's a variety of ways that our office sends out refunds. The first is direct deposit transfer to a bank account. This option is highly recommended by our office to ensure a safe and efficient transfer of funds. Students must enroll in direct deposit via Triton Link for this method to be available to them. This will also require that you have either a U.S. checking or savings account to use. If a student does not enroll in direct deposit, a paper check is mailed to your current mailing address, which is usually where the student resides while attending university. If there is no current mailing address on file, it will be sent to the permanent mailing address, which is usually the family's residence. For graduate students who are awarded monthly stipends and are not enrolled in direct deposit, their checks will be sent to their current mailing address. There is an exception to this list, though. If the refund originates from a credit card transaction, the refund is sent back to that same credit card. Also important to note is that parents cannot request refunds on behalf of students. This has to be done by the student contacting our office. As we mentioned earlier, UC San Diego runs on a monthly billing cycle. So while you are by default charged tuition and registration fees on a quarterly basis, there are other purchases or charges you may incur that are due monthly. For fall quarter, which includes September, October, and November, each month has a billing due date. The September billing due date is when your tuition and registration fees, as well as quarterly housing if you live on campus, will be due. If you're paying your full tuition and registration fees, as well as housing for the quarter in September, you don't necessarily have to worry about the October or November billing statement, but we advise you keep an eye out in case you charge something to your account in the middle of the quarter. Due dates are also included on e-bill notices and the billing statements themselves. Also worth noting is that all enrolled students are required to have health insurance and are automatically enrolled in USHIP, which is UC San Diego's health insurance plan. However, if you have outside health insurance, such as coverage through your parents, you can apply to waive USHIP. You can apply via Triton Link by going to the Financial Tools tab and clicking on the Health Insurance Waiver option. All right. As we mentioned before, we encourage you to contact us if you have any questions regarding your account. For students, you can contact us using the UC San Diego Services and Support portal. For parents and authorized pairs, please feel free to send an email to sfs@ucsc.edu. You can also find various knowledge-based articles via the UC San Diego Services and Support portal, whether you're a student, parent, or UC San Diego community member.
All right, so that wraps up the formal presentation part of our webinar. However, we will be sticking around a little bit longer to answer some other questions, both live as well as within the Q&A section. Before we move on to that, though, I do want to launch a second poll and ask everyone to complete that. So just give me one moment. So that poll should now be live. So I would, again, ask everyone to complete that. While you're working on that, I do want to show a little bit more contact information for our office and emphasize that we are on Instagram at UCSD-SFS. So that's another great resource for everyone to utilize. Reach out to us that way and find a lot of really good information. We also have a great resource page on our SFS website. So it's sfs.ucsd.edu. And from there, you can find the resource tab along the top of the page, but the URL is there at the bottom of this slide as well. I also would like to thank everyone who has attended the webinar tonight, as well as our great team here in the office. Lena doing the presentation, and we have Catalina here answering questions and doing that great student testimonial, and another colleague of ours, Francesca, behind the scenes answering some great questions. So I'm just going to give us a brief pause, about a 30-second pause before we start resuming questions. Please go ahead and complete that poll, and we will resume questions very shortly. All right, so we're back. I'm going to go ahead and leave that poll running in the background while we start answering some additional questions. I also want to give a quick plug for us that we are going to be launching some virtual office hours, virtual advising hours, hopefully in the next week or two. I would encourage everyone to visit our website, because once those virtual advising hours are live, there will be information on our homepage about how to sign up and how to attend those virtual advising hours. So as we get closer to the fall quarter, students start enrolling in classes, receiving their bill. If other questions come up, that's going to be another way that you can reach out to our office and get the help and information and resources that you need. So our first question is, will this webinar be recorded and posted online? So to reiterate, yes, this webinar will be recorded. The recording will be posted on our website on that same resources page that I mentioned a few moments ago. We hope in the next 2 to 3 days. So if not by the end of this week, beginning of next week for sure. So our next question that I'm going to direct towards Lena is, do students and authorized payers get notified that they are eligible for a refund?
So no formal email notice is sent out when there's a credit available. However, any available credit balance is shown on your alert box on the Triton Link landing page. And anytime a refund is sent out, you do get an email notice as well.
All right, great. So next question, can you enroll in direct deposit with a bank account outside the US?
So if you use direct deposit, you have to use a bank account that's held by a US institution, though you do have the option to use either a checking or savings account when designating direct deposit.
All right, what about, can you pay with direct deposit or automatic withdrawal from your bank?
For our university, direct deposit is only used when you're receiving refunds from UC San Diego. We don't use any sort of auto payment system. So if you do have a balance due, you have to initiate that through the Triton Pay site.
All right, so what about, how often will we be charged? Will we be charged quarterly, or can we pay annually?
So the default is typically quarterly for bigger charges like your tuition and registration fees. Every quarter you enroll, those will be assessed. Though we do have the option, again, to enroll in TRIP if you'd like to split up those payments into monthly installments. Housing is usually also charged quarterly, though they have a couple different payment options. You can make a yearly payment, so one lump sum at the start of fall quarter. You can use their quarterly option again, or they do have a monthly option to make payments. If you'd like to change these installments, you can contact housing directly, or it can be done through the housing portal. Other charges such as bookstore, parking permit, the market, those are assessed to your account and are due monthly.
All right, so what is the penalty for missing a payment or making a late payment?
So there's a couple different types of late fees. For charges such as registration and tuition fees, if the payment is late, the registrar's office assesses a late fee. For late housing payments, the housing office assesses a late fee. For any other miscellaneous items, again, parking, bookstore, market charges, stuff like that, if a payment is made late, then there's a $25 billing statement late fee that will be assessed to your account.
And how long is the health insurance waiver good for?
So assuming there's no changes in coverage or anything like that, your health insurance waiver is good for the entire academic year. So fall, winter, spring, and it does roll over into summer. But you do have to enroll each academic year. So it's not good for the entire time you're at UC San Diego. You do have to re-enroll every academic year at the start of fall quarter.
All right, so another question about tuition and how it's charged. Is it charged by quarter or by unit?
So we don't charge on a per unit basis during the academic year. The only difference would be if you're a part-time student. So taking less than full-time units, there's a small reduction in tuition. If you're a full-time student, it's a flat rate, whether you're taking 12, 14, 20 units. The only difference is during summer, you are charged per unit. So that can vary whether you're taking 1, 2, or 3 classes.
All right, so we spoke a little bit about penalties for making a late payment or missing a payment, but is there any sort of grace period for paying tuition and other fees?
Typically, no, there is not a grace period. Any unusual circumstances, you're certainly free to reach out to any of their respective offices to see if anything can be done. Usually, we're more than happy to work with you, but typically it is a hard deadline.
Right, and will parents who have been given access to the portal also receive an email alerting them when the bill is due?
Yeah, so usually between the first and I'd say the third, fourth of every month, both students and authorized payers are sent billing notices. Typically, the subject line is something like e-bill notice, September 2020. No specific account information is noted in that email notice for privacy reasons, but there is a link to the authorized payer portal where then you can access the specific account information if you'd like.
All right, so that was our last formal question that we will answer live at this time. However, we will stay online for about another 5 or 10 minutes, just answering any other questions that might come in via that Q&A feature. I do want to thank everyone again for coming out tonight and participating in our webinar. We really hope that the information that we provided tonight has been helpful and will be useful as you transition to UC San Diego. Just another reminder for how to contact us. We do have our website, the sfs.ucsd.edu. We also have our Instagram at UCSD-SFS. Again, ton of great information can be found on our Instagram page. Really encourage everyone to follow us if you don't already. And then we do have, for students, we have the UC San Diego Services and Support Portal with the link there on the slide. If you're a parent, you're unfortunately not going to have access to the Services and Support Portal directly, but we do encourage you to email us at sfs@ucsd.edu. And while we won't be able to be in the office in person to help you this fall, but hopefully we will soon thereafter, we do look forward to helping you all via electronically, virtually. Our virtual advising hours is going to be a great new addition to the way we can serve you and your parents and anyone else who might need our help. So thank you again. Welcome to UCSD, and hope you all have a great night.